Okay. Now we just got to get this to go. Come on. There we go. And there we go. How about the chat? Out with the jive, in with the love. Need to turn off closed captioning on my end for reasons. Okay. I think I got it. All right, here we are. I hope you folks are doing well on this Sunday morning. Let's see here. Good morning from a rabbit-infested Ontario. Oh, my goodness. Priming some Battletech mechs. Nice. Fungazi saying good morning from DC. Good morning. Howdy from a rainy Jonesboro, Illinois. No tags today as I'm down at the in-laws on mobile. Nice. Let's see here. Battletech models are my current jam as well. Loving these Catalyst sculpts, even the mechs I wouldn't have bothered with previously. Well, that's good to hear. It'll be interesting to hear if you had to clean them or not. We had some discussion about that recently. I don't know if it was on Twitch or if it was here, but talking about how whether or not the Catalyst models need to be like scrubbed like resin models do. Like resin models, you got to clean them off before you try to paint them because they've got stuff on the outside. Mold release, as it were. Good morning from a chilly Oregon. What's the temperature here? It's like 30. It's a little bit below freezing. It's sunny, but it's chilly. It is a little cooler than we would usually have at this time of year, and it's going to stay this way for a while, which is, you know, it's a thing. Let's see here. Got to get laundry done and paint up some minis for 5 Leagues from the Borderlands during stream today. Nice. Why is the... Well, maybe no one's chatting, or maybe the window is broken. Or maybe it's on top chat and I want live chat. Why does it... Good old YouTube, just like, yeah, no, totally. You totally would want to have top chat instead of live chat in your live chat window. That makes total sense. Let's see here. Now we can see some stuff. Nice and sunny in southern Ontario, Clearwater, Florida, Glasgow, muggy, overcast, Corpus Christi. Good morning from suspiciously sunny Leicestershire. Going to listen while I get casting/drawing done. Nice. Finally starting to paint my hover tuk-tuk. That sounds like fun. Jive turkey, indeed. Athens, Greece, Winnicott. Let's see here. Nice warm Sunday afternoon here, says Terrier Halo. Nice. Good morning from the Gurney, Waukegan area. We drove through there recently on our way to and from Adepticon. Canterbury, West Virginia. Let's see here. Sunny Vermont. How's the Osh and the Kosh this fortnight? It's fine. It's a lovely day in Edinburgh, Scotland. I have a space dwarf on a hoverboard. Nice. Missouri, Mount Vernon. Morning from the Mitten. Getting ready to smoke a turkey for the family. Nice. Let's see here. Rhode Island, we've got, I'd rather have 30 degrees than 77 degrees and 78% humidity. I mean, generally, once it gets into summer, 76 or whatever percent humidity is lovely, actually. Or it's not lovely, but it's better than what we usually have. In the summer, our humidity is in the 80s and 90s most of the time, which is, you know, troublesome sometimes. Let's see here. Hello from a sunny West Midlands. Sort of feel guilty staying in painting, sort of. Well, you know. Morning from Vegas. How you doing? crisp morning here in Indiana. It's crisp is a good word for it. Yeah, for sure. Golden Demon seems to prefer brightly toned minis this year. I've had some discussion with some of my friends who entered, and it seems as if it like, you know, Games Workshop's, their particular judging seems to be like, we want it to be box art, but perfect times 200. Like, that's, if you look at the Slayer Sword winner, that Skink, it's an amazing paint job, but if you look at it, it's not anywhere near realistic. It's almost a little cartoony. It's definitely box art, but every single paint stroke on that entire model is perfect. And that's, I think, what they're looking for. So if you're going there to do something that's really like artistically interesting, that may not necessarily be what gets picked. Also, another fun fact, what you paint has to be accurate, meaning if you have a decal on the wrong shoulder pad, if you're painting a particular character and you put the wrong chapter markings on them, not like, oh, this guy's supposed to be a Blood Angel, but you made him a Space Marine, but like, he's supposed to be second company, not third, or whatever. All little tiny little lore things. If you could paint an amazing piece, but if you got one piece of lore where they don't agree with it, they're like, nope, and it's out. So that's also super important to do your research, I guess, if you're looking towards the Golden Demon. Which is very different than the last painting competition that was at Adepticon for many years, which was the Crystal Brush, which you could use whatever the heck models you wanted and do whatever you wanted with it. So that was a definitely different thing. Some fool from Jackson, Florida, finally checking a live stream after watching for years. Thanks for all you taught me so far. Well, absolutely, Ryan. I appreciate you. I like smoking turkeys, but they're so hard to light. Well, they're hard to keep lit is really what it is. You can light them, but they don't stay, and then they go out. Tampa, Florida. Love work vids. Thanks so much. Absolutely. Had a bit of a hobby splurge yesterday. I saw that on the Discord. Yeah. Dropped almost 1,000 Australian dollars and got a bunch of Mantic stuff. Nice to be back at work so I can spend a bit. Absolutely. Nice. Let's see here. Sunny and cold in Columbus. That should probably do you for a while is what it should do. DJ Todd P. Harris, how you doing? I'll wait 5 minutes and it will change. Yeah, that's the Midwest. Penny Mauser, how you doing? Hi from near Cologne, Germany. Nice. GW are picking heavy metal style times 1,000. Yeah. Getting ready for firefight with VJ Morph. I wonder if Uncle managed to read the Deadzone rules. I have not. They're still in my... I've been carrying them around in my little weird satchel. I have my laptop in here and also the Deadzone rules, but I have not had a chance to read them. But a viewer, one of the irregulars, one of the Patreon supporters at the $4 a month level, did recently. I found it on, I think I picked it up on Friday or Thursday. I don't know when I picked it up, but it was at my P.O. box. Sent me a copy of the Battle Company's book for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. So this is like the Kill Team or Warcry rules for Middle-earth strategy battle. So you need the downside is you need the strategy battle main rules. Then you need this rules to be able to play the skirmish version of it. And then you also need the army book to know what the armies are. So that's a little bit of a, but that's GW. They're addicted to books. I've done a video about that relatively recently, as a matter of fact. Well, it was a live show, but yeah, so I'm looking at it. I'm looking at, I don't know, because I was looking through there and like some of the lists, like you're starting off with like literally like 6 Uruk-hai, or you're, maybe 7, Warriors of Rohan or something like that. And so it's a much smaller game as far as that's concerned. You're not like, oh, I got to build even 20 or 30, models. It's a much smaller group. And then there's also, campaign rules and all that kind of stuff and narrative, which I'm super into. I like, that's the kind of games that Vince and I, design. You can play it one off, but it's designed to really be played, as a campaign, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Let's see here. Miniature Agnostic and Crystal Brush was amazing. The downside to the Crystal Brush to some degree was that for the last several years before it ended, everyone who won the big prize, Best in Show, was some giant custom-built diorama type thing that was built by like an entire crew of people and then painted by one person, pretty much. So if you weren't at that level where you had a crew of people building you this an amazing giant thing, you know. So the upside to Golden Demon is that it levels the playing field in that y'all have to be using the same models. You have to be using GW models. You can do crazy stuff with them. You can build a diorama, all that kind of jazz, but the models still have to be models that you get from, Games Workshop. Unless you're in the open category, then it still needs to be GW IP, I think, but you can sculpt stuff if you wanted to, like completely. Like the person who got the gold in the open category made, basically built and painted a Mephiston, which you looked at it and went, that's obviously Mephiston, but he was like, I don't know, 6 inches tall. So it was obviously not a model that GW had made. You have to add tobacco to keep that turkey lit. Well, then the turkey's going to get cancer. I don't think that's a good idea. Let's see here. Would love to hear your thoughts on the Necromunda Ash Wastes. Do you think GW is releasing a new edition of rules? Actually, I had some questions about that, and I asked some folks, I think, where I was either on Twitch or else I asked just in the, I don't remember where I asked. I asked somewhere, and I did get some responses, and I also looked around a little bit in the Warhammer community website. It seems as if the Ash Waste rules are basically like, it's not an add-on, it's its own standalone, but it's got additional rules tacked on. Now, the thing that I wonder about is if it tweaks the rule. Now, if it's just adding on the rules just for the Ash Wastes part, and if you're not interested in playing Ash Waste part and you still play the old rule book, is that fine? I don't know. And I don't know how competitive of a scene it is either. So I don't know if it's one of those situations where like, oh, when I go to a Necromunda tournament, I got to make sure I have the right version of the rules. I don't know if that happens a ton. I know there is some organized play that I have seen at like places like Nova and I think maybe an Adepticon as well. But yeah, I don't know that it's Necromunda is its own little kind of thing because it's not like Kill Team where they're like, hey, there's a new version, boom, here you go, and it was a definite like delineation between the old version and the new version. They just kind of keep adding on, which frankly makes it a little difficult if you're trying to find a point to jump in when you're like, okay, I bought that book, and they're like, yeah, but you need this book and this book and this book and this book, and you're like, so that it's honestly a bit of a tough question from what I understand. So, but from what I understand, it is basically the normal game. You can bring your army or your gangs from regular Necromunda, bring them into the Ash Wastes. But if you're not interested in the Ash Wastes, I don't think that the book is a necessity to keep playing regular Necromunda, from what I can tell. It's yeah, I don't know. And it'll be also interesting, again, like I said, to see if they sell the book separately. If they sell the book separately for people who are just like, I want the newest version of the rules, but I'm not interested in, dune buggies or dudes riding giant fleas and stuff like that, then, it's a different story altogether. Let's see here. Love to see the Middle-earth strategy battle game attention. Yeah, the amount of books needed sucks. Well, I mean, there's only 3, I guess, so it's beating 40K. Yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what I want to go through and kind of check it out and whatnot. Let's see. Is there a place online to see pics of Golden Demon winners? I would assume someplace on the Warhammer community site, but I don't know that for sure. I know they were posting a lot of the pictures of the winners like on their social media and like Facebook and stuff like that. They would like show, hey, here's this category and here's the gold and the silver and the bronze and whatnot. And so you could check their Facebook, but I would bet that a lot of that stuff's also on the Warhammer community website. Good morning, Adam. I hope you're having an awesome weekend. So far, so good. I did a little bit of 3D sculpting yesterday. Well, sculpting's just a bad word. Constructing. A couple weeks ago, I tried to start kind of learning Blender a little bit, and it's really hard. And it doesn't, as a person who's been using graphics software for a quarter of a century, it doesn't make a lick of sense in my opinion. And I'm just like, ah. And so I just want to design little greeblies to put onto terrain, things to like embellish terrain. And there's going to be a lot of non-organic shapes. Let's be perfectly frank. So instead, what I started using was Tinkercad, which I've used in the past for things before, and I seem to have a pretty good handle on Tinkercad, at least good enough. So I did make a shape, produced an STL, sent it off to game format, and he's going to print it sometime soonish, and just so I can see like what it looks like. But it'll be tiny. It's like 12 millimeters by 20 millimeters. It's a tiny little like electrical box kind of thing. So yeah, I did a little bit of that yesterday. I mean, it's not like it took me all day. It took me like literally less than half an hour, because I understand Tinkercad way better than I understand Blender. Yeah, but I did a little bit of that. I was doing a bunch of building of some stuff. I finished up building a new Warcry warband that is made out of Warhammer Underworld models. Zarbag's Gits. I built 2 of the Squigs, 2 of the Shootas, and the Squig Herder, Squig Leader. I don't know what that guy is. I forget his name. Well, wait. I have it here on my desktop someplace. He's a Drizgit the Squig Herder. See, I was right. So I've got Drizgit the Squig Herder, Zarbag's Gits Squig, Zarbag's Gits Squig, Zarbag's Gits Shoota, Zarbag's Gits Shoota, and then from the Snarlfang, Rip, Snorter, whatever the heck, it's the Goblins Riding Wolves. It's 3 of them. There's Rippa, Narkbad, Mean Eye, and Stabbit, and those are 3 Goblins Riding Wolves. You put all 8 of those models, 8 of those models together, you get a total of 995 points. So they're all built now, and I think I might prime them today, although I might give them another little layer. There's a lot of big gaps on some of them, so I've been trying to use some sprue goo, which my sprue goo is not quite on point yet. But I'm trying to fill those gaps a little bit before I prime them. Do you have any examples of the demon warbands you use in Reign in Hell, like the models or the build, like the lists? I have neither of them on hand, like right here, but I painted, let's see here. I painted one group of them on Twitch. Actually, I think I painted both groups of them on Twitch, but the VODs because Twitch only holds on to the VODs for 60 days. But yeah. Who isn't interested in riding giant fleas? Well, for ash wastes, I'm waiting for sandworms. Ooh, that'd be kind of cool. I want to watch Dune again. There's a Warhammer community article with Golden Demon winners in the pictures. Nice. Good morning from good old Quebec. If you don't mind, I'd like to know where you'd start with an AdMech kill team. I'd rather avoid spending too much for once. I haven't really kept up with kill teams since they changed it because I don't like what they've done with it. If I remember correctly, Adeptus Mechanicus did get an update in White Dwarf. I can't tell you which issue of White Dwarf because I don't know, but technically, I guess they did get an update in White Dwarf. So I would probably start by trying to track that down, because then the Adeptus Mechanicus list will be much more interesting than the kind of crap list that is in the compendium for the Adeptus Mechanicus, and mostly all the rest of the armies as well. So yeah, I would check that out. I've been guilty about the amount of waste this hobby makes, most of all 3D printing. If you like iPad, consider Nomad Sculpt. I actually did pick up Nomad Sculpt for my iPad. I have just sort of poked around at it, so I would need to check it out a little bit more too, but yeah. Let's see here. I learned 3D sculpting modeling on Autodesk Maya. Nice. Over the last week, I finally figured out the setting for Anycubic Tough Resin on my Anycubic Photon machine and started printing Loot Studios robots for Stargrave. Nice. Orc, the other green meat? I don't know if you're supposed to eat orc. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Trying to find some of the Wolf Riders to add to Zarbags for Warcry, but they seem to be out of stock all over Australia. That's weird. Yeah, I can't remember what the heck the Wolf Riders are called. Rippa's Snarlfangs or something like that? That sounds about right. The models for Reign in Hell. I realized I was unclear. Sorry about that. Oh, no problem. Yeah, actually we did if you go look at the snarlingbadger.com website and you look at I think we call it either blog or news, I forget which. There is an article on there about it's got a listing of all the models that we use that are in the book. As far as like, if you wanted to see like on this page, like this is a cool model, I want that model. And then you could go to this article and look at it and go, oh, it's from My Mini Factory and it's called this or something like that. Or it's from Mantic and it's called that or whatever. So yeah, definitely you could check there. Otherwise, honestly, if you're looking to build demons for Rain and Hell, if you have a 3D printer, My Mini Factory is your best friend. If you don't have a 3D printer or don't have a friend with a 3D printer, then WizKids, honestly, those WizKids models, those like Dungeons and Dragons ones, nearly any Dungeons and Dragons monster can be a demon if you just believe in yourself. There's so many of them that are just like, yeah, just paint him red or whatever, do something. And he goes from being a such and such in D&D to being, a slaughter fiend or a tentacle beast or whatever, So yeah, I would definitely tell you to look at those. Obviously, Games Workshop makes some nice demons. They make a whole line of different demons. You could use some of those. And then the other thing is take a look at Etsy. Because if you don't have a 3D printer, there's plenty of folks on Etsy who do have 3D printers and will sell stuff. So either like if you find a model, let's say on My Mini Factory, and it has a very specific name and you're like, this is cool, type that into Etsy. You'll probably find somebody who's printing that and selling it. And if not, maybe you'll find a seller on Etsy who has stuff that you like. And then you can reach out to them through the messaging on Etsy and be like, hey, if I send you some STLs, will you print them for me? And then send them to me and, cost and back and forth and all that kind of just, and then, that's a good way to do it too if you're looking to get specific models made, but you don't own a 3D printer or don't have a friend with a 3D printer or something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to find demons all over the internet. You know what I mean? And at your local store if they sell the GW stuff or the WizKid stuff. Finally taking the plunge into tabletop miniatures with A Song of Ice and Fire after lurking in the community for a long time. Thanks for being a good entry to the hobby. Well, absolutely. Not a problem there, Nick. Admech is in White Dwarf 468, says Michael. Well, that's good to know. Not supposed to eat green meat, period. No, it doesn't sound like a good idea. Wouldn't orc flesh be like mushrooms, kind of, and technically not meat? It's a good question. It's a very good question. Did you do some Viking shenanigans last night? I fell asleep. I did not. No, instead, my wife and I watched a movie, and then I did some more building downstairs in the basement, building some models and stuff, some stuff for a secret project to some degree. So yeah, I did some of that, and I was building most of the day yesterday. I was listening to an audiobook and some podcasts. Well, podcasts first, and then I ran out of podcasts that the ones that I usually listen to. I had all caught up, and then I did a bunch of audiobook listening. North Star Minis has a set of plastic demons for Frostgrave. Also true. Yeah, we used some of those in the game. We used them in some of one of the photos that was digitally repainted by Artists Empire in the book. Do I have the book within arm's reach? No. But one of those pieces is using those North. Yeah, they're like 28 millimeter, like normal, like person sized demons, and they're wearing like plate mail, and they're very modular and stuff like that. But they have tails sometimes, and they have demon heads and junk like that, and it's pretty cool. It's a nice kit. Let's see here. Mantic have some interesting demon-looking models. Yeah, we used some of those too, I think. Vince painted and photographed those, and then we sent those also off to Artists Empire, who did the digital magic over the top of them. Just got the book for Silver Bayonet. Is there a similar game that is more like a cult World War II, 30s and 40s era pulp? There used to be a game a long time ago called AEWW2, I think. And I think the AE stood for Alternate Earth World War II. I mean, so you got your, there was that game, which is probably kind of hard to find these days. Let's see, what other alternate history stuff? Reaper made a game for a while called Reich of the Dead that was all about basically Nazi zombies and such, and then you shot them a lot. Dust was a game that has recently kind of sort of closed down, but that was also like an alternate or a weird World War II. Honestly, if you just, well, and there's also Fallen Empires from Gaddis Gaming. That's also a weird World War II game. Or is it Empire's Fall? Empire's Fall. I'm not Fallen Empires. Empire's Fall. Yeah, there's some games out there that are definitely in that genre. Conflict 47 is also a weird World War II. It's not so much a cult necessarily. If you want a cult, the only thing that's maybe close might be, honestly, the Dust game, because there is a faction that is basically Cthulhu cultists and such. So, yeah. Otherwise, if you like Silver Bayonet, you also might like... Osprey made another game, too, called Draculas America, which takes place kind of like in the Old West. You know, the late 1800s? Something like that? Mid 1800s? I forget. Dracula escapes Europe and comes to America and kills Lincoln. So this is, yeah, late 1800s, 1860s or whatever. Kills Lincoln and then puts the entire Senate or Congress or whatever under thrall, and then basically gets voted in to be president for life, which when you're, immortal is going to be some time. Anyway, yeah, and that's also a skirmish game, but from Osprey, and it's about vampire hunters and vampires and all kinds of crazy stuff. What colors of meat are we allowed to eat? What colors can you eat sparingly? I don't like the idea of gray meat too much. I don't know. Learning airbrush illustration. Nice change from mini painting. It is definitely a different thing from what I understand. Absolutely. Ever played card games? Yeah, I mean, I played Magic back in the day, like way back in the day, like in the early days, back in like Antiquities, Ice Age, stuff like that. Like the first, like I got into it, I think maybe when beta was still around a little bit, but then it went into unlimited and that kind of stuff. I played a little bit back then, just casually with friends. This is back before you sleeved cards. I don't think they even had card sleeves back then. What else? I played for a little bit. I played Keyforge from Fantasy Flight Games, which was also kind of a collectible card game, but a little different. I liked it because there was no deck building. I'm not a big fan of deck building, as it turns out. Used green stuff for the first time today. Found it tough to mix together, and my fingers hurt for about an hour after. Is it usually that hard, or is it because mine is about 10 years old? Probably the latter. Probably because it's very old. When you buy it relatively new, it's not nearly as difficult to mix because it's a little softer. Over time, especially if it's been around for a decade, it will dry out. So yeah, that's probably the case. Sad I can't find the AT-43 models anymore. Love the Space Apes. I mean, you might be able to find some still on eBay, but they are probably becoming few and far between, for sure. Weird West is a growing genre, mixes in a bunch of tropes. I can see that. I imagine wiki Weird West. I imagine squigs have some excellent bacon. I don't know that you're supposed to eat squigs either. There was too much Weird West. I just want regular Wild West. All the RPGs are going weird. I just want a regular tavern owner. Well, that's... Yeah, I don't know. I think that sometimes people do that just because it gives you more latitude, and it's more interesting to be able to make something weird World War II, weird, Wild West, weird, Last Tuesday, whatever, something like that. Keep your fingers and tools wet when working with green stuff, and make sure you mix roughly equal amounts of the two colors. These are both true facts, yes. Keeping your fingers and your tools wet will mean that when it starts to turn green, it's actually turning into epoxy putty at that point, and it's all mixed together. It will get real sticky. So you don't want it sticking to your fingers and your tools, so you keep your fingers and tools wet. Just dip them not into your paint water necessarily, but just like a little glass of water or something like that. That helps. Keyforge is great. You can find some great deals on decks these days. Yeah, I suppose so. Keyforge's algorithm got encrypted, and they tried to make Asmodee pay to unlock, and they refused, which is why that halted so wildly. Yeah, I kind of heard something about that too, but they basically got like ransomwared, which is a real bummer. I'm astounded that it just doesn't make any sense. Like, you only have one copy of the algorithm, and like, if you've made something that important and you don't have any other backups, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I've heard that story going around, and it just sounds fishy to me. But maybe not. I don't know. Dead Man's Hand have really cool skeleton cowboy gang. Nice. Getting pretty excited to get into Imperial Assault. Going to use your Stormtrooper recipe to smash them out. Nice. It's a good recipe. Works out, I think, pretty well. 3 colors Zenithal Priming Shadows of Brimstone minis today. Nice. Yeah, that's a Weird West kind of thing. True. Good point. Looks like I need to suck it up and buy some fresh green stuff. I mean, it will probably work better for you. It's not even like a, geez, you surely buy it. It's like you'll be a lot happier with it, I think, honestly. I read about people mixing green stuff and epoxy sculpt together to sculpts. Tried it out and liked it quite a bit. Oh, that's cool. Historical games let you use historical games let you use general games like GURPS or Fate and then just buy history books. Sure. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I seem to like I want there to be more to it than just like the normal history. You know what I mean? Just regular old history. I mean, history is interesting. Don't get me wrong, but from a gaming standpoint, it's never quite struck me. But as soon as you start adding like weird elements to it, then I'm interested, you know. I was finally able to, on eBay, find the other box from Wargame Atlantic or Wargames Atlantic. I can never remember the name of that company. It's either Wargame or Wargames Atlantic. But there's a game that I've backed on Kickstarter, which is going to be, the PDF is going to be coming out real soon. I just did the backer kit last week. And it's based off of, it's by the same person who did Forbidden Psalm, which I've talked about before, which is based off of Morkborg, the RPG. So there's a new version of Forbidden Psalm, but it's in a completely different world instead of being in a fantasy world with, you know, swords and crap, which is fine. But there's now a version called The Last War, which is basically weird World War I. So that's for some reason very interesting to me. I'm not quite sure why. But it is. Anyway, I was looking at Wargames Atlantic, and they have 2 different sets of World War I figures. They've got a German set, which I picked up actually at the Gamma Trade Show. Thanks again to John Caspian. But then the second set that they have is French, World War I French. And I couldn't find it at any of the local stores and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'll order it from Wargames Atlantic. And then it turns out that it's out of stock there as well. But I did find one on eBay, and then it showed up finally. So now I have basically enough to make 2 forces, because it's a small skirmish game. Forbidden Psalm, the thing that's cool about it, one of the things I like about it is it's 5 models. Now, I don't know if they'll keep it as small as that with The Last War, but I'm kind of hoping so. It's basically the same rule set, just tweaked. But it's weird World War I in that you have haunted tanks and sentient clouds of mustard gas and like giant trench maggots to fight as well and stuff like that. So I'm very interested in heading in that direction, maybe even building a board. Whole game plays on a 2x2, so you can build a board for real easy and cheap and store it pretty simply as well. And so that type of like weird history stuff I dig, you know what I mean? When are you going to do your Turnip 28 regiment, mate? Yeah, I was talking a little bit with Max online, Max, who designs Turnip 28, and I was asking actually if he was working on an even smaller skirmish game. Like, it's Turnip 28, you can still get by with maybe 20 models, which is not terrible. 20, 25. But it's still, I'm just like, you know, what do you think? Have you thought about doing like a game that's going to have like far fewer models, 5 to 10? And evidently he is working on a version that's going to be much more skirmishy that way too. So I may hold off a little bit and work on last war. I mean, I'm still supporting the Patreon and whatnot for Turnip 28 because I love what they're doing. So I'm very interested in that, but I am definitely checking that out. So I have a concerned question of 3D printing robot legions for one-page rules 40K. I have been a strong supporter of my LGS, even though I'm not buying models. I buy bases and paints for them. How do I play in store with 3D prints without feeling like I'm cheating on my store? I mean, honestly, I'd talk to the store owner if you can about it. Like if they're a person who's at the store a lot, or maybe the manager, whoever's there a lot, I would say, look, I really love these sculpts, but I'm still buying my glues and my paints and my this and that, and see if they have a problem with it. You know, if you play in the store and they're like, I mean, if you're going to be playing one-page rules in the store already, they probably don't sell one-page rules. Like if you're going there to play in 40K and you're using non-40K models, some stores have no problem with that. Other stores are like, no, dog, you can't do that. You know, I mean, it depends on the store. If it was me as a store owner, I wouldn't be like, no, you have to use GW models or you have to use the models from me. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's some places that like charge per table, and then I guess you could do whatever you want. Other places don't charge for table space, but they do really kind of appreciate. Like if you're gonna go to the store and use their space and breathe all their air and whatnot, you should be supporting them for sure. But if you're like, but I love these models that I found on My Mini Factory, One Page Rules, some other Patreon, whatever, then that should be fine. But again, then I would definitely make sure that like when you're there, like whenever, one of the reasons people think it's weird on Twitch when I'm painting and stuff like that, they're like, how many of those little GW handles do you have? And I'm like, I don't know, 17 or 18 of them, something like that. And it's because when I go play in the store, I want to buy something when I go there to play. If I'm going to be there, like I said, breathing their air for 2 or 3 hours, I want to buy something, and I don't usually need new paints. Sometimes I do. But so a lot of times it was just like, well, I'll buy another handle. It's always good to have more handles because then you don't have to, if you got like 2 handles, but you're painting 15, miniatures, that becomes troublesome. So, yeah, anyway, support the store, definitely. But ask them and see if they have a problem with that or not. They very well possibly may not. And if you're a good customer, they'll be like, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. So, there's that too. If I see no more zany named Morkborg supplements, I'll be both shocked and delighted. Duckborg? Ooh. Let's see. I wonder if Keyforge got locked out of all the info on the decks that were made by the algorithm. It could be. I saw the Forbidden Psalm rulebook the other day on one of those shops on my splurge. 40 bucks for a tiny little A5 hardback. Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, it's not a cheap book because it's a small little hardback, but if you want it, they also sell a soft cover too. But you can also get the PDF as well. But it's not a cheap book, but it's also very limited edition. It's not, they don't print as many as all the other, big companies and such like that. So yeah. I just backed the PDF version of Escape from Stalingrad Z, which looks awesome, and just doing the PDF means I can print local and get playing with standees and tokens. I think I talked to that guy at Reno. Escape from Stalingrad Z sounds familiar. I believe I might have... Is that a game that you play, like, in the book? Like, he had, like, a spiral-bound version of it, and you actually played maps that were, like, the page and stuff like that. I think I talked to that guy for a while at Reno. Let's see here. Kelly, how you doing? I swear by Easy Off oven cleaner for stripping paint, particularly acrylic paint. You do need to scrub with an old toothbrush under running water in the laundry sink. I always like to use the LA is Totally Awesome. That's my jam. I'm not sure if Morkborg is an RPG or a war game. Morkborg is an RPG. But it has a specific kind of licensing scheme where I think that as long as you follow a couple of rules, I think you can license it for free, which is to say then there's somebody out there who made like a pirate, Morkborg type game, and someone else made like a cyborg game or cyborg morg or whatever. It's like a sci-fi thing, the cyberpunk. Forbidden Psalm is designed to be, it's compatible kind of with Morkborg. So if you wanted to take characters from Forbidden Psalm and move them into the RPG, you could do that, or vice versa. You could take RPG characters and move them, I guess. I have never actually played Morkborg, and I don't know anything about it other than I appreciate the design aesthetic. Like their covers on all their books and all that stuff look really super cool. And so I dig that, and I like Forbidden Psalm a lot, even though like the insides of the book are very crazy, and like every single spread is different and different colors and all kinds of stuff like that, which some people don't like, but I don't know. I like that kind of punk rock sort of fantasy aesthetic, and so I'm really looking forward to Last War as well. LA is totally awesome, and in ultrasonic equals no scrubbing. Generally, yeah. I've had to maybe scrub just a tiny little bit to get like in the weird little crevices and spots. There's been like some maybe extra paint, but honestly, I could have probably used a toothpick too. So, Gates of Antares is community supported now. Great news. Interesting. I don't play in store, so I rarely feel obligated to buy, but I can say finding the only game in store that stocks the entire Mantic range at 20% off, they'll be getting a lot of my business. Sure, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I did that video a long time ago about support your local game store, and there's a lot of people that are like, but I hate my local game store. They're all mean, and they throw day-old cupcakes at me and call me names and stuff like that. And I would then respond and go, well, then don't support that store. I mean, like, it was funny, the people who were like, well, why should I have to support this store that I never go to and that I hate? And I guess the answer was you don't. But if you go to the store all the time, then you should support that store. That was the point. And maybe I didn't make it clear enough in the video, but the idea was that if there's this store you go to and you play all the time, but you buy all your stuff online and never buy anything from them because you can get it for 10% off online and these guys sell it at retail, that store's going to go away if you don't support it, and then you won't have any place to play. So that was the idea. But a lot of people took it the wrong way, and they're like, well, I don't have to support local businesses if I don't want to. And I'm like, I mean, true, but do you ever go in there to get stuff? No, I never go in it. Well, then don't. Yeah, no, that's not. So yeah, I guess I hadn't thought of the possibility that maybe a person would get angry about, the fact that I was saying that you should support your local store, which they believe to be run by, monsters or whatever the deal is, and they don't go in there. If you don't go into a store ever, then don't support it. I get that, but if you go in there and you play like frequently or every weekend, I mean, I know my local store every once in a while has got a guy or somebody who comes in and the store owner's like, that guy never buys anything here, but he's constantly got new armies, but he never buys, not even a pot of paint. And you're like, the thing that's awesome is when that person comes into the store and even brings in their own snacks. That's classy. Very classy. Morkborg is a Swedish RPG with an OGL license. Is the L in OGL for license? Because then it would be an OGL license. Well, anyway, that you can use for free like many other RPGs have. It's made by 2 guys and published by Free League. That's a fun name. Morkborg was made by some guys listening to death metal and writing like crazy, and I followed the design journey on a Swedish forum. Nice. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's like definitely like a throwback kind of like, I don't want to say vintage, but yeah, it's got some older ideas kind of and that kind of stuff if you're into that jam. So yeah. Oh yeah, it's like a throwback RPG, easy to die and all that, old school feel and the strange feel. Yeah, it does definitely have its own kind of thing, which I think is cool. Easy to support my local store. They have beer on tap. Well, yeah, I suppose so. I save 15% all the time at my local store, and the community there is amazing. Yeah, like at my local store, for every $100 you spend, you get basically a voucher for $15 off. So it's not exactly 15. Like to me, I'm like, that seems like 15%. And then I've had friends who are better at math go, well, technically it's not 15% because I'm like, all right, but yeah, it's still $15 off out of every 100. So I'm fine with that. And so, yeah, good stores have loyalty programs, I think, On the other hand, there are some also stores that are like, well, we'll just give everybody a discount or whatever. And that's something too. I think that overall, personally, from my opinion, if you give everybody a discount, then you'll get people who come there just once in a while to buy things because they can get it at the discount. Whereas if somebody comes in all the time, then they deserve a discount because they're helping to support the store. Whereas someone who just is driving by, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm not great at math, so I don't know how to go about that road. But different stores do different things for sure. Have you seen that Res Nova is doing a Kickstarter to reboot the Warzone TT game for Mutant Chronicles? I got Kickstarter and Mutant Chronicles out of that. The rest of it, I have not heard of any of those words. It's called Warzone Eternal, and the Kickstarter begins 17th of May. No, I vaguely remember. I remember Mutant Chronicles. I watched the movie, which came out obviously after the game originally came out. The game, I think, came out in the 90s, maybe. So I only have a vague recollection of Mutant Chronicles, the game. I don't remember Warzone specifically. Oh, wait, no. Fantasy Flight, I think, tried to rebuild it at one point, didn't they? Didn't they do like a pre-paint game for Mutant Chronicles / Warzone or something like that? They were pre-painted models, but they were 54 millimeter scale for some dumb reason. It's one of those things where I kind of sometimes wish companies would reach out to me and like pay me to be a consultant. Because if they were like, look, we're going to make a pre-painted game, 54 millimeter, I'd be like, don't do that. Don't. No. Would have saved them a bunch of money, I bet. But what do I know? Open Gaming Licenses OGL Free League is named because of the people who made it for the company in the first place, named it after a faction in an RPG. And now they're big publishing Blade Runner and Alien. Oh, that's cool. I've heard of I didn't know there was a Blade Runner RPG, but that's pretty cool. I have heard of an Alien RPG, and I've heard it is pretty cool if you're into RPGs and such. If my store had tap beers, there'd be considerably more candid purchasing. Well, see, that's maybe a part of the idea. My FLG has a club and we get a discount. See, there you go. Makes sense. Local stores in New Orleans all have place-based memberships, which I think is a great business model. Big cities need to do that. You know, I know there's a small chain of stores in the Milwaukee area that charge for table space because things are very expensive in the big city, you know, and whatnot. So yeah. Mutant Chronicles, such a bad movie with Ron Perlman. It's one of those movies that I don't want to say it's a cult classic, but I enjoy it though. My wife and daughter go to buy me gifts at my FLGS. As soon as they describe what they're looking for the staff, they all look at each other and say, Johnny. Yeah, probably. I can understand that. Mutant Chronicles has been around since the early 90s, the RPG from Sweden. Oh, that's cool. Blade Runner RPG hits Kickstarter on May 3rd. Oh, that's kind of cool too. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think that, I don't know. I gotta be honest, I kind of get a little tired of licensed stuff. Well, I don't know. Here and there. It depends, I guess. I think RPGs, I don't know that, like, I seem to be better, in my mind, it seems to work better for me, at least in my weird brain. It seems to be better to have a licensed miniature game sometimes than a licensed RPG, because RPG is so much about your specific, like what's going on as the GM or as the players and things like that. But when you've all seen the movie or read the book or whatever, you're like, well, this wouldn't happen in that world, but it could, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and as a GM, you might just be like, look, this is an offshoot, or we're going to do what we want and that kind of stuff. And that's great too. But I think that sometimes it can, I don't want to say hem you in, but maybe a little bit, you know? Ron Perlman equals best Hellboy. You know, I've still never seen the new Hellboy. Like, I'm a big Hellboy fan, and I really liked the first Hellboy movie. Second Hellboy movie did not quite do it for me as well. I don't know why. It just didn't. I should really give it a chance again and watch it again, but I watched it like once in the theater, and I was like, eh. And I like David Harbour. I think he's cool. Never watched the new Hellboy. It's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, nothing wrong with not watching it, I guess. We need to open more private clubs. Mutant Chronicles is to Warzone as Warhammer is to 40k, Sigmar, etc. Warzone was published as a minis wargame in the 90s, 3 editions. Interesting. That was like a question on the SAT there. The Warhammer store in St. Augustine here in North Florida I've been to St. Augustine when I was in the 7th grade. There's a big fort, right? Here in North Florida is looking for a manager. They go through managers like crazy at the St. Augustine store. Anyone from Florida know why? Most of the American GW stores or Warhammer stores or whatever these days are basically just one employee, right? Like, I don't know. I know the closest one to me is still a good 45-minute drive away, which is not terrible. Well, maybe it's more. 45, 50 minutes, something like that. And that store has just got one employee. I'm 99% sure. But I don't know, maybe in other markets but for a long time, most of the American stores, from what I understand, basically had one employee. So they had employees there and like, I have to go to the bathroom. Then they have to close the store for a bit to go to the bathroom, which is, a bummer. Alien RPG works great. The published adventures are called cinematic adventures, and you basically play a movie, not a campaign. It works great, according to me. Well, there you go. That's fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it. TT Combat bought relics and have done nothing with it. I just want to finish my Britannin and Rydend armies. Huh. Well, I'm assuming those are factions. Yeah, I don't know why that is. I don't know. I know that like some companies do. Like I know that TT Combat also bought Carnivale, right? And something else too, but I forget what. Same in New Orleans. One busy dude. Yeah, I just, I don't know. It seems odd to just be like, let's just have one person, because then the store's also closed at least a day or two per week because, I mean, admittedly, it's like they're closed on, I think, the one that I was I was down in Madison, Wisconsin for something, and I was like, oh, I've never been to the Fitchburg store, which Fitchburg is like just outside of Madison. So I'll go to that store. And I drove out there and it was like closed. And I'm like, oh, it's not open on Tuesdays. Okay, cool. I suppose Tuesdays are not necessarily, like it makes sense that they're open on the weekends, but not on Tuesdays or maybe Mondays or whatever. I get that, but I don't know. We have one in West Bend, just one guy. Yeah. Like I said, I think that's the case with most of them in America. GW managers leave for a number of reasons. Can't make the sales, hate the culture, find a job that pays real money. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that's the thing. If you want to be able to hold on to employees, you got to be able to pay them. I would think that GW has that kind of money, but, well, we'll see. I find games that are tied to a movie or TV show feel restrictive, but that's just me. Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel, too. I got to be honest. Yeah. So anyway, on Friday, I posted a video where I talked to, let me see if I can remember them all off the top of my head. I talked to Miniac, I talked to Ninjan, I talked to Lila Mev, I talked to Matt Yee, Kenny Boucher. I should have started counting on my fingers. Who the heck else did I talk to? Goobertown and Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues. Totally forgot those two. So yeah, Goobertown, Lila Mev, Miniac, Ninjan, Matt Yee, who's a Twitch streamer, Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues, and Kenny Boucher. And I talked to them when I was at Adepticon, and I asked them all 3 questions. And they were questions about content creation, and that kind of stuff, which there was a couple of people in the comments that were like, why didn't you ask them about painting a hobby? And I'm like, well, because I didn't. I don't know. I talked to those other painter folks in the video 2 weeks ago about that. And then this one, I talked to the content creators and asked them content creator questions. So that was a couple of questions that popped up from folks who were like, I don't understand why you were asking them about content. It was like, why are you talking inside baseball? And I'm like, it's because it's interesting to people who might want to, get into their own content creation. But there was also a lot of people in the comments who were like, hey, Uncle Adam, where's your answers? Why didn't you interview yourself? And I'm like, well, that's kind of hard because then I can't hold on to the camera when I'm doing it as easily. But it's a fair point. So I thought that today I would answer the questions myself. Let's see here. So the first question that I asked all of these different content creators was, what do you need to know about yourself before deciding to become a content creator? So now I'm going to ask myself, what do you need to know about yourself before deciding to become a content creator? I think you need to know whether or not you enjoy learning. because becoming a content creator, there's a lot of things to it. There's a lot of different facets to it. But I would say one of the most important things is you have to learn things, and you have to be interested in learning things. There's all of the different types of equipment, and things. There's all of the software, editing software, all that kind of stuff. You have to learn audio, you have to learn lighting, you have to learn a lot of different things if you want to start doing it at a good level. You can definitely start just by using your phone, and and maybe you buy a cheap microphone that plugs into your phone or something like that if you want to have slightly better audio. But you can start, and you should, if you're interested. You should get into it. And it's not even just YouTube. Instagram, Twitter, blogs, I don't know, the TikToks, evidently. Kids are into that these days. But yeah, so that type of stuff, but learning as you go, I'm still constantly learning. I'm trying to learn, new social media strategies. I'm trying to learn, how to better, kind of compartmentalize time and keep my time, set up, and how to better reach a wider audience, and how to, there's all kinds of different things. You have to constantly keep learning. Every once in a while, you've got folks who, I already had a background in graphic design, so I didn't have to learn the technical stuff behind how to make thumbnails. I already had Photoshop and had been making graphics for a long, long time. So it was very simple for me to be like, oh, okay, thumbnails, cool. And I could make thumbnails that I think were very, clear and attractive and whatever, and all that kind of stuff. But there's also a lot of little things that go into thumbnails for YouTube that, you could have a really good looking thumbnail that may not necessarily catch clicks as much as another thumbnail that knows the strategies a little better and things like that. So it's constantly, I think, learning. Learning is a thing that you have to be good at, or at least be interested in taking, an attempt at, if you want to get into content creation. That's, I think, pretty important. Are you going to PAX East next week? Yes, I am. I'm leaving on Thursday. I will be leaving on Thursday morning, and I'll be in Boston from Thursday until I'll fly back on Sunday. So for the irregulars, the Patreon supporters at the $4, which is the top tier level, that's the live show, the monthly live show that I do will be from Boston. So I'm going to try to see if I can get that to work. Hopefully so. Push comes to shove, I do it on my phone, I guess, but I'd rather not. But yeah, I'm bringing a little microphone. I have this little Blue is the manufacturer. Blue Raspberry is what it's called, and it's a small little fold-up microphone that works pretty decent. So I'm going to be bringing that along in the luggage, and then I'm going to get OBS set up on my laptop and all that stuff, so I'll be able to hopefully stream from the hotel room while I'm there. So, yeah, but I'll be in Boston for PAX East. Local place is run by 2 people, but it is closed on Sunday, the only day I have off, unfortunately. Yeah, I've always wondered about game stores and comic book stores and stores that are aimed towards, it just seems odd to be closed on a Sunday. There used to be a game store here not here in town, but a couple towns over, that used to be closed on Sundays, and they decided to stop that, and now they're open on Sundays. So, but it's their choice. Obviously they can do whatever they want, but it seems like it's a day that, especially if kids are off from school, I think Sunday's big for my local store here that I'm friends with. Sunday's a big Yu-Gi-Oh day. So yeah, a bunch of sales and people coming in and playing and whatnot. Apparently my FLGS is open till 6 today. Very interesting. More content for the content god, indeed. My local GW manager always wanted his own game store, but could not afford it. Working GW store was a compromise for him. He's very non-typical GW manager because of it. Yeah, I bet so. Absolutely. I don't remember seeing the hobby painting witch in your video. I need to rewatch this. Oh, yeah. Lila, it was the first time I'd met her. Vince and I were in the expo area, the exhibitor hall. area at Adepticon, and we were looking at stuff, walking around, talking or something, and then we both just sort of glanced over and we're like, "Hey, that's Lila from from YouTube." And so we went over and introduced ourselves, and she was very nice. And so we talked for a while, and then later on when I was, doing the videos and stuff, I bumped into her and I was like, "Hey, would you be interested?" I think she was in the painting area. Yeah, she was over in Fort Wapple, which is when you first kind of come into the big main doors for the Renaissance, the entire convention area, hotel area, whatever. There's this, you come in and there's these big escalators that go up to like the lobby, but the lower floors down here, the lobby. And then underneath the escalators back there are some like little side rooms that's where a lot of the classes get taught, stuff like that. But there's this kind of like big open area underneath the escalators. And that area gets set up with a bunch of tables, and it's just referred to as Fort Wapple. And it's named for James and Kathy Wapple, who are not dead or anything. It's just they kind of run everything because they're locals to Chicago, so they kind of get these things set up. And it's just where the painters kind of hang out and sit around and paint and talk to each other and do kinds of stuff like that. So I bumped into her there, and I was like, "Hey, I'm filming over here out by the big windows. Would you be interested in coming on and answering 3 questions?" So yeah, that was nice. Thumbnails are best when on the end of thumbs. It's true. I'm working like now. At least it's right at home, surrounded by my library of RPG and wargaming books and minis. Nice. You have a good camera and a so-so mic on your phone. Don't spend money you won't earn. I always tell people without knowing anything. Also, eBay is full of hardly used equipment for a reason. Yeah, no, that's true too. Like, I talk to people all the time who are like, "I'm going to start my YouTube channel as soon as I save up enough for this camera and this and this." And I always be like, you should start with your phone to see if you like making content. Because if you wait and wait and wait and wait, buy a bunch of equipment, and then find out you don't like making YouTube videos or whatever, then... if you've got a phone, which most people do, you can shoot on it. It probably has at least 1080p. It might be 4K, so you've got the ability to do it. And again, you could buy like an inexpensive, even like little mic that would make it work a little bit nicer. Audio is very important as it turns out for video, which is strange, but it's true. I get being closed on Sunday because you want to be at church, but if that is the case, get some help to work on Sundays. Sure, I mean, I can see that. Wapples are the best. They are pretty cool, yep. I was glad to interview both of them in the previous video about the painters. And I had interviewed them in the one I did back in 2017 as well, so there's that too. As someone who's worked in retail, often being closed on Sundays has to do with either the overall cost of being open versus sales or overall availability of staff. Yeah, I worked at a comic book shop. Oh gosh, this was in the early 90s. I worked at a camera store. So I went to college, worked at a camera store, and I also worked at the comic shop, but I only worked at the comic shop on Sundays. And I was the only person there. It was like from like noon to 4. And, people would come in and buy stuff here and there, but it was never crazy busy. But I was just there for 4 hours and it was fine. But it was still like the owner was like, "Yeah, it'd be nice to have somebody." So I think did I even get paid? I might have just worked for credit. I don't remember, but it was like 4 hours once a week. It was fine. And I was young. But yeah, it was, I think that happens, I don't think that necessarily on a Sunday you need to be open crazy late. You don't be open till 10 o'clock or whatever, but I know plenty of game stores that are open till sort of late. The local game store I go to all the time on like Fridays and Saturdays is open till at least 10, if not a bit later sometimes. Like if the owner gets involved in like a big game of Commander or something like that or EDH or whatever you call it these days, for Magic, like they can be open later. So yeah. GW gets much traffic on Sunday due to markets right outside the door. Sure, I get that. Buying an Anycubic M3 today on sale. Let the printing begin. Nice. I care way more about video's audio quality. I only glance up at the screen every so often. That is true, specifically with our people. You know what I mean? Like, there are plenty of other niches in YouTube that are like, "Oh, well, like your video quality." Like, I make a, 5-minute video every week or twice a week or whatever, but it's all about like really crazy filmmakery kind of stuff and whatever. And the people who are watching it are watching it. Now, admittedly, a lot of them are watching on their phones, so you don't necessarily have to go 8K, you know, and all that kind of junk. But yeah. But with our folks, the people in wargaming, a lot of times you're listening to the video more than you are watching it because you are doing this. You're like painting and working on a thing and you're listening or whatever. And once you look over and you go, oh yeah. Now, I can't do that while I'm painting. I cannot listen to a video while painting. If there's video content, I'm watching it, and I have a tendency to do that, and then my brush dries out because I'm not doing anything. So that's why I have to listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks. But plenty of folks don't have a problem with that. Vince, for one, he listens to YouTube videos while painting all the time. And so, you know, it depends on how you work. Like I've got this kind of visual, like focus thing where even if it's just like a talking head like this, I still, for some reason, catch myself just like staring, you know? So yeah. But most of the folks in the hobby are painting and listening to videos. And I know this for truth because there are times like this happened again, like, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. I was talking about something. I forget exactly what. And I mentioned the name of the company FASA, which was the company that started Shadowrun and Battletech and Crimson Skies and Earth Dawn and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, FASA. I'm like, I don't remember what FASA stands for. It stands for something. It's an acronym, but I forget what exactly. And I said that in the video. But then when I was editing, I looked it up on Wikipedia and I popped it up in the lower part of the screen where it says it actually stands for Fredonia Aerospace and Aeronautics Society or whatever the heck it is. And that's what it's based off of Marx Brothers or I think it was based off of a Marx Brothers movie called Duck Soup, I think. And anyway, long story short, that's what it stood for. But I popped it up on the screen and it printed it out on the screen and told you exactly what it was. As I was saying, I don't remember what it stands for. I had probably a dozen people in the comments who were like, oh, actually it stands for this. And they just didn't see the thing pop up on the screen because they were doing this and painting and not, you know, looking at the screen, which is fine. But because of that, I know that it's sometimes for me a waste of time to put tons of extra visuals in and like B-roll. If I'm talking about like a primer, I don't need to show a picture of what that primer looks like because I know people aren't really paying attention visually. They're just listening to it. So I work more sometimes on audio than I do on video. That's just a personal thing though. But a person, if the video is real janky, a person's not going to sit and listen to that. So even if the visuals look fine, if the audio is terrible, people, especially in a longer term video, don't want to pay attention. So. Let's see here. My local miniature store is closed on Sundays and Mondays. We are a small market, so he can't afford having people working, especially on Sunday, which is double pay already. Well, sure, I get that. Vincey V, the Technomancer, indeed. I think as a follow-up, you should interview some of us amateur painters. Well, I mean, that's maybe a... yeah. Have you listened to Tales from Malifaux? I need to start it over. I used to play, but the stories are still good. I haven't. No, I should check that out. Flip your phone so the screen is face down and you can listen to YouTube like a podcast. Yeah, maybe. Speaking of painting while watching, if you make future asking questions videos, can you please read the questions for those who paint during it? Can you please read the questions for Oh, I see what you're saying. Like you have a voiceover of what the question is. That's not a bad idea. It's a good point though, yeah. Right now I'm mostly listening and writing a review. The Talking Head makes more sense than Talking Heads did though. I don't know, the Talking Heads were a pretty good band. Trapped Under Plastic from Adepticon was awesome. Wish I had an Adam guest appearance, though. What was I doing on Saturday night? I think it was on Saturday night. I was doing something, but I don't remember what. I know Thursday night I was busy. Well, I was doing some stuff and then helping out with Vince's show. No, that was Wednesday night. Thursday night I went to a GW event and then went and played their laser tag thing, which was Okay. JP got Raucous. How you doing? Pay for premium and you can drive around town listening to YouTube with your screen off. True. That's a good point. In countries with good worker pay rates and protection, we do. Sure. Breachside Broadcasts is fantastical. Same as it ever was. Indeed. Yeah, no, I like I said, generally I listen to podcasts and audiobooks. What was I listening to yesterday? I started listening to a new John Scalzi book called Kaiju Preservation Society, which I'm enjoying so far, so that's good. I usually listen on a phone while painting, but tonight's live stream is projected 2 meters high on a wall. Wow, that's big. That's pretty cool. How you doing? Let's see. What's the second question that I asked those painters? And then they gave me hot takes. That's why I put it in the thumbnail. There were hot takes in there. Let's see here. So from the Friday video, first question was, what do you need to know about yourself before deciding to become a content creator? I just answered that one. Talked about learning. You have to like learning. Second question, did you start with a mission for your channel, or did you instead start and then find your way? Technically, I kind of started with not so much a mission. I guess I started with a purpose. I don't know if that's the same thing or if I'm just splitting hairs. I don't know, maybe. I started doing the YouTube because I wanted to learn YouTube. I wanted to learn video production. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to make videos, I should probably make videos about the thing that I'm passionate about. So I then have something to make videos about. If I just made videos about whatever, it wouldn't necessarily strike. If you're going to make videos about something or any kind of content, it should be about a hobby or something like that, or an interest area or whatever that you are actually really interested in. That's, I think, pretty important. It's like when you're a kid and, you're in art class or whatever, and the teacher hands out the paper and the crayons or whatever, and they're like, so draw a picture. And there are kids out there that are like, I don't know what to draw. What should I draw a picture of? And then there's other kids that are sitting on both sides of them. And this one always draws dinosaurs because they love drawing dinosaurs. This one always draws race cars because they love race cars, or whatever the deal is. So they have a thing that they have a passion about, and that's what comes out in their content. And, sometimes you're just like, I don't know what to do, what to make a video about, right? So, yeah, that was initially what I wanted to do, was to just learn how to make videos. But then over the course of a couple of years, my mission, I guess, changed, and it turned into something that was a little bit more like the mission and it's still the same mission that I have today, and that's basically getting people into the tabletop wargaming hobby. Teaching people that it's not difficult. It's not as difficult as they may think. Showing them like, hey, this is a cool hobby, and you should take a look at it. I have a very strong belief that the actual hobby portion of it is a really good hobby to have, because you're working with your you're working with your hands. You're focusing on something. You're kind of blocking out distractions and all that kind of stuff. It can be very meditative. It can be very stress relieving, that kind of stuff. So there's something really to be said about doing a hobby that you're using your hands and you're focusing and you're kind of tuning everything else out for your mental health. Honestly, I think it can help a ton. So I want to teach people about how to get into the hobby and how it's not as difficult as they may think. And a lot of it's technique, and it's very easy to learn techniques initially and all that kind of stuff. So that's really the mission of the channel. I'll have people from time to time who will be like, I don't understand why you keep talking about these, like, beginner things. Why don't you talk about like pro painting techniques? And I'm like, well, number one, I'm no pro painter. Number two, that's what the channel's about, is about getting people into the hobby. There's a bit of an issue to some degree in that when people, once they are in the hobby, the information that I'm, handing out or whatever may no longer be particularly applicable. Lord knows I will watch beginner videos still to this day and sometimes learn things, just even if it's like not even necessarily something very specific, like they're teaching like how to do this one thing, but then there's one spot where they did this one thing, just wasn't even the point of the video. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I never tried doing that. So I'm still always constantly learning stuff, even from beginner videos or beginner focused videos. And I think that's important. So, you know, like I said, I understand because I'm not moving really too much into crazy intermediate kind of painting or specifically advanced painting. And there are plenty of channels out there. So there are folks that are probably not watching the videos after they've kind of learned enough and now they go on to the next level, and that's fine. But yeah, so that's kind of where, that's kind of the mission and the point, but it didn't start there necessarily. If you look at the earliest videos, they were kind of all over the place. But sometime in like 2015-ish roughly is when I decided, hey, this should be really the focus of the channel, and that's what I did. Do you just use Audible, or do you use some of the apps from your local public library? I use Audible. Yep. I second asking the question out loud. I either have to guess or go backwards and find the question and read it. Gotcha. Okay. Yep. A lot of YouTube vids, the volume is too low. No matter how much I turn up my volume, I can't hear them. You have to wear headphones, close your eyes, and concentrate like a radar guy in a WW2 sub. Yeah, I could. I mean, there are certain levels where you're trying to hit, and this is, again, things I've learned. Like, you want your peaks generally to hit between -6 and -12. If you go a little too high, it's troublesome. But there's all kinds, like audio it's its own crazy animal as far as that's concerned, within video production and stuff like that. It's a whole different thing. I don't often paint while listening, but I am today. 10 Horus Heresy White Scars Breachers. Nice. Oops. How are folks picking their next project from their hobby backlog? I can't figure out what to grab as I haven't been playing recently. Playing does have a tendency to dictate what I'm painting. Like, if I'm like, I haven't painted any sci-fi stuff. Like, I haven't painted any Kill Team stuff because I'm not playing Kill Team anymore. So everything I've been painting lately, specifically on Twitch, has been Warcry. But I have painted some other stuff for games like Space Weirdos, which is sci-fi, you know, but I've also got a decent amount of stuff already that I can use for Space Weirdos. But every once in a while, I'm like, hey, these guys are cool. I want to make a special, you know, Space Weirdos warband or whatever. But I've also been doing I've been painting a lot of models to use in photography and potentially, you know, in battle reports, I think is what they're called. Yeah. For our next game, the next game that Vince and I are working on, which is also a sci-fi game. So I've been doing some of that on the side too. But yeah, it's all over the place. Generally though, play does kind of drive which paint projects I take. And then sometimes also the YouTube channel, like specifically I need to paint this for some, you know, video or whatever. Sometimes that happens too. Let's see here. I love most everything Scalzi does. Yeah, no, I like a lot of his stuff too. Sound quality is the #1 do or don't listen to me for videos. If I'm listening while painting, I have a truck driver headset that I wear. It goes over one ear, noise canceling, listen for the cats, etc. Nice. Hyperion by Dan Simmons is one of my favorite books to listen to while painting. I don't think I've heard of that. Been listening to the Horus Heresy series on audiobooks while assembling and painting. Works well for me. Yeah, I listened to the first couple, maybe 3 Horus Heresy books. I don't want to say like on a loop, but I'll listen to them and then like a year or two will go by and I'll listen to them again. Same with Eisenhorn and Ravnor. Both of those I listened to. Good old Toby Longworth. Toby Longbottom. I don't remember his name. The guy who does the audio, the narration is really super good. But yeah, the Eisenhorn and Ravnor. I just finished up Ravnor a couple of months ago, so it'll be a while before I listen to him again. But yeah. When you have trouble deciding what to work on next, just grab something and get stuck in. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy the process. Yeah, I can see that. I pick based on what sparks joy. You want to have your joy sparked, for sure. When I draw or paint, I have a very hardcore metal playlist with some Wu-Tang sprinkled in, but I think it's because I can't really focus on music that fast and complex, so I just focus on technique. I can't listen to music with words, like lyrics, if I am having to do something with words. Even if it's like just whatever junk music, but as soon as someone starts, even like techno, where there's like once in a while somebody like sort of singing, or like I have to listen to, if I'm going to listen to music, especially while writing anything, I have to listen to music that is completely instrumental. I have a focus issue with, like, when someone else is talking, I can't focus on the thing that I'm trying to write or whatever. Like I could never listen to a podcast and write, even like HTML text and stuff like that, or HTML code and whatnot, like back in the day. Just can't do it. You know what I mean? Making videos nowadays is easy. Not like using two VCR decks and a stereo and a few patch cords before the digital age. It's true. Like you can completely edit your videos and stuff on your phone now or your iPad if you want to. Oh, hey, I missed. Let's see here. Report. Is crossbow guy Matt around? He's not. Why can't I hide user on this channel? That's what I wanted. Here in May, June, July, it's all Warcry. August is Cursed City, and the fall will mix in Age of Sigmar too. So I know my painting schedule will be some Blood Bowl stuff in there too. Yeah, I was never good at like planning out schedule for like what I was going to paint. It was very frequently like, oh, like I think I'll work on this next. But Twitch has done that to me. Twitch has definitely given me like right now I'm trying to decide. My plan originally was to next Warcry warband was going to be Khorne, Bloodborne, but now I'm thinking maybe it's going to be these Gloomspite Gits, and then I'll do the Khorne after that. But then my plan is after that, I do want to this summer on Twitch paint my original, well, not original. It's my 2009 version of Space Hulk. So it's the first version I've ever owned. I originally played on my friend's version. When I first played Space Hulk First Edition, it was my friend Peter's version, but I didn't actually buy my own until the 2009 version came out. So that's what I'm planning on working on soon this summer as well. Lord of the Rings narrated by Andy Serkis is my jam right now, or Uncle Adam when I can get his smooth, dulcet tones. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I should listen to the Lord of the Rings by Andy Serkis. That sounds interesting. As for audio, oftentimes analog recordings like reel to reel gets a quality that solid state stuff and digital can't match. Problem with audio on YouTube is that most content producers have never heard of normalizing. I use normalizing all the time. What I've noticed with, and this is interesting, what I've noticed with the software I use, which is called Vegas Pro, the editing software, is that like the way that I sync up, because when I record my videos, there's the camera and it has a microphone built in, which is terrible, but I still use it for what's known as scratch audio. But then I have another microphone that's out the top. It almost never pokes down into the frame, but every once in a while. And it's a shotgun mic that points at my mouth, and it's plugged into a digital recorder. So I have to hit record on the camera, and then I hit record on the digital recorder, which is a Tascam DR60, something like that. DR60D, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm recording audio separate from the video, but the video still has the audio component attached to the track. I just don't use it. But I do use it when I first need to sync the audio and the video together, the good audio from the recorder to the right. So the way that I do that is I clap 3 times, louder than that usually. And then on the little audio waveform, when you're editing, you see on the good audio, there's 3 waves that pop up, and there's 3 waves that pop up on the crappy scratch audio, and you mix these 2 together, and then you tell the scratch audio track to go mute, so you don't hear it, and then you only hear this, and you group them together. It's a whole thing. But if you take that audio and you tell it to normalize, when you've got those peaks from the clapping, it won't really do anything because the highest it goes to is where it sort of normalizes. So I always have to cut that off and delete it and then normalize the track, and then things work better. That was a little bit of trial and error early on in the days. I was like, why is this not working properly? And then I eventually figured it out. So anyway, there's a little bit more inside baseball, behind baseball. Backwards baseball, something like that. It's behind the scenes shenanigans is what it is. But normalizing is very important in your software to help it so that people makes things better. I've worked as a DJ since the late 90s in nightclubs to strip clubs. I have learned one thing: no matter what volume you set your levels base meds, someone will complain. That's true as well. That's true. Surprised there hasn't been a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles minigame. That old RPG is a classic. There was a board game that had a bunch of miniatures, Foot Clan and the Turtles and Splinter and all that shenanigans. I forget who made it. AEW? AEG? No, I don't remember. But yeah. I read that. IDW, that's what it is. IDW had the license and made board games with miniatures. Yep. Trance and vocal trance with some progressive are my hobby playlist for tunes. Nice. I'm painting minis for an Infinity faction I want to run, but I recently picked up 2 high-quality resin printers, so I get distracted with painting some new models that I made. Yeah, that's cool. I picked up Lord of the Rings by Circus on Audible the other week. Looking forward to it after I finish the Lovecraft stuff I'm listening to. Oh, I should listen to some Lovecraft stuff. That'd be pretty cool, too. Greetings from Poland. I'll rewatch the stream. Currently painting Orlocks just for fun. Used roller for hexagonal tile basing. Nice. I'm enjoying printing things from work printers, so I'm learning a little bit about filament. My mom asked me about 3D printing relatively recently. And so I had to try to explain the difference between filament and resin, which was, I don't know, maybe she understood it. I'm not sure. New Skaven, look the bomb. So glad to see Clan Eshin getting a refresh. Yeah, the new models, they're good, but here's the thing. Somebody at GW recently has been getting real excited about, like, smoke and fire and, like, I don't know. There's a part of me that is sort of, like, especially building these Gloomspite Gits from the Warhammer Underworlds boxes. I am tired of them making the bases. Like, I am tired of them sculpting a bunch of stuff on the base and being like, oh, I want to do that because I want it to look the way I want it to look. Like, I enjoyed doing that. Like, don't get me wrong, like, you know, like let's say your Night Haunts. The Night Haunts have got, like, oh, there's a little gravestone, or there's, like, some skulls and stuff. But they don't texture the entire base. They just give you some little extra pieces that they go on to there. But then when you buy the stuff for Underworlds, because that game is designed to be very push fit, and, you know, they understand that a lot of people who are playing it aren't painting it at all. They're just push fitting it together and going to town. Those bases are completely sculpted, and then I don't know, I just don't like the way they do it. And that's the thing about these new rats for Nether Face. What the heck is the new Nether Hex? Nether Maze, Nether Regions, something like that. Whatever the new Warhammer Underworlds is, not Ultima Underworlds. It's like, there's one of them where he's, like, standing, like, the rat is standing on, like, a pipe. But it's not like a pipe coming up out of the base. It's like the pipe is running through the, like, let me go try to find it real quick. It's wackadoo. Warhammer. That's not what I wanted. Warhammer community. Boom. Let me do this. There we go. So what I'm talking about, like, that guy right there, like, there's a pipe. It's like they're just basically taking a cylinder of, like, the world, and they're putting the rat in there. And I just, like it looks cool from that angle. I think it's going to look real dumb from the other angles. Like when you turn him even 90 degrees and you look down that pipe, if it's not hollow, I'll be like, well, that's kind of dumb, isn't it? Like that I'm not a big fan of. Like the pose is awesome. Like everything from the pipe up, I'm like, cool. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's a personal preference. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Over here, this guy, also awesome pose. Why is he jumping onto like a weird piece of smoke? You know what I mean? It's just kind of odd. He's just jumping onto a piece of smoke. I'm gonna cut that piece of smoke off of his foot and have him jumping onto like a rock or something like that. I wish the Games Workshop would stop modeling smoke and, you know, other gases, fire. Yeah, I don't know. This one doesn't bother me as much. And you can also see that like inside there's that pipe, you know, so you can kind of see inside. It makes a little bit more sense. Plus it's also not just like a shaved out like cylinder of existence. You know, it kind of goes up and it's, I don't know. This one bothers me way less. The poses on all these rats are awesome and the sculpts are awesome. It's the bases I kind of don't like. So I'm going to probably either have to try to get them off the base somehow in some fashion or figure something else out. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. These two guys at least are standing on the ground. I appreciate that. I know it's kind of dull or whatever, but like this, yeah, like I said, I want to rotate this 90 degrees either direction to see if this pipe is just a solid thing or is it a hole like this one. Like that one, at least the pipe has got a hole to it, which makes sense. So I don't know. That's just personal preference. I gotta get all my stuff together back again, go over here, and then I gotta go open the other window up, which I lost here. There we go. Let's see here. I've hoarded all kinds of bits and pieces of the years from junk kits and other spares. I want to use them on my bases. Yeah, I like making bases. I know there's some folks that don't, but I kind of like making them. Maybe it's not smoke. Maybe it's orc flash. I see it like he's jumping backwards and dropping the smoke bomb where he was. Yeah, and I don't think so. Let me show you why I don't think so. I like where your head's at. I wish that was the case, but you'll notice his cloak is up. So he's coming down because his cloak is trailing behind him. If he had been on the ground and he jumped up away from the flashbang that he threw down or the ninja smoke that he threw down or whatever, his cloak would be down like he's jumping up and away. But his cloak being way up flapping in the breeze means he's coming down. So that, yeah, I like your idea better, honestly. Even if they would have just sculpted the cloak to be like down like he was leaping away, that'd be actually kind of cooler, honestly. Yeah, definitely. There we go. And poke. There's something deeply satisfying about cutting a tank model in half to depict a derelict that is sunk into the ground over time with a hacksaw blade. I can see that, yeah. Every once in a while you find like an old, every once in a while I would buy like from a lot. I would go on eBay and buy a lot of like Space Marines. This is a long time ago, back when I was more into 40K. And it would come with like a half built or partially built like Rhino. And I'd be like, you know, I could turn this at an angle and kind of cut it and then make a piece of terrain out of it. Because like all the parts wouldn't be there necessarily. So I'm like, I can't use this as a Rhino. Like they threw it in extra because they were like, hey, you throw it away. You know what I mean? That's what sometimes eBay is. And I'm just like, I'm going to put this in the box and then you can throw it away. I don't care. It's out of my hair. Which I get, you know, but yeah. Marvel Crisis Protocol minis come with multiple bases. G-Dubs is stingy with their bases. Yeah, I can see that. I think the Nighthaunt bases where the tombstone is part of the model sculpt are great, but the Banshees where the base is like 3 centimeters tall is annoying. Yeah, the Banshees, the Mirrormorn Banshees, I don't like the bases on those either. I hate the tactical rocks. Yeah, I can understand that. Someone who hates making bases as part of the hobby, I prefer the Underworld's pre-made one. See, and that's the thing. I understand that there's folks out there who don't like basing. I like basing, but yeah, it's hard to try to please everyone. I get that. Maybe it's really windy. I mean, I guess. It's in the sewers. That's not wind. Ooh, that's no good. It's the Marilyn Monroe effect. That rat looks much like Marilyn Monroe. It's true. I want to like basing, but I'm not very good at it. I try, but it rarely comes out the way I want. I generally try to keep my bases relatively simple. I don't want to go crazy with my bases too frequently, and I do feel like that is becoming more of a trend, is to have the bases like kind of crazy. Catching you live for a change. I want to thank you for reinvigorating my love for the hobby. Well, absolutely, TJ. I appreciate it. I'm glad that it helps. Really hopeful the Skavens will get some new releases for Age of Sigmar. Yeah, I definitely could use it. They would really benefit from a new start collecting with more clan rats and storm vermin, maybe. Yeah, that'd be very cool. Definitely. Now, if they pose them all like they're all leaping around and do, then I'm kind of like, I don't know if I need that. But you know, that's me. I'd love to do a rhino nose half submerged in a pool of water, mud, terrain piece. For the number of times back in the day when you'd be like going across dangerous terrain and roll a 1 and then your vehicle was stuck there for the rest of the game, you know, even like a Land Raider, like, oh yeah, I went across these small rocks and now my Land Raider is wedged, I guess, and can't go anywhere. Cool. Now I have a pillbox. Yeah, I would, making terrain pieces that basically like, you know, there's a small puddle, but there's an entire rhino that must be sunk in there because all you can see is the top of the rhino's like, you know, front part. That'd be very funny. It's like literally just a tiny little, like, how deep is that puddle? Jeez. Just picked up two of the new Frameworks player models, and I'm so happy the tactical rocks are optional. I didn't know those were for sale yet. That's cool. I looked at them a little bit at what the heck? Oh, at Reno, at the Gamma Trade Show in Reno. I did see the tactical. Sorry, I did see the Frameworks models there. Some of them. I got to be honest. Some of them are more expensive than I expected. Some of them were not, but some of them are. So that's weird a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what the customer base thinks. You know what I mean? I always tell myself I'm going to do a simple base, but then I add a little thing and then another little thing and another little thing until it becomes a project on its own. Nothing wrong with that if you enjoy it. I love basing models a lot. I also really enjoy working on terrain, wargaming, or scale modeling, which I find to be related. Yeah. Hey, Zambies, how you doing? The thing that annoys me the most of the integrated bases for the Banshees is that I'm making my Nighthaunt fire themed, so they're all on lava bases. Good luck to me hacking it to pieces to achieve my theme. Yeah, those Mirmorn Banshees are also all doing weird swoopy stuff. I like most of the models for Nighthaunts. I think most of them are spectacular. I don't like the Mirmorn Banshees. I painted them because they came in the box when I bought the Warcry box just for Nighthaunts, and I was looking at the stats. I'm like, yeah, these guys are useful, but I don't like the models, honestly. I think I only did 2 of them. I don't think I did all 3. I think I just put 2 of them in there. But yeah. I had a bunch of 35th scale tank models that otherwise would have become pellet gun targets if you can find cheap ones, even partially built at flea markets or garage sales. Yeah, I could see those for terrain as well. All the individual models were the same price for players. The critter prices are a bit too high, though. Oh, of the Frameworks models? Yeah. Any recommendations on basing videos? Want to start but don't know glue types, applications, etc. I mean, I made a video about how to use baking soda for your basing, which I have done a bunch of myself. These days, though, for some reason, I've just really seemed to be stuck on the fine basing texture from Monument Hobbies. That stuff's kind of my jam. So, Let me see if I can find it. I think it's in stock. Monument Hobbies. It's there's coarse and there's fine, and I've not used the coarse, but the fine is exactly what I want. Let me click that button. Is it considered technically a paint? Is it a hobby tool? No. You would think it'd be a paint. Basing texture. There we go. Yeah, so it's the fine stuff here. It's got a very nice texture to it. It's very easy to spread around. It's like in a gray paint, kind of like this, and I just use an old brush and I can just put it exactly where I want. GW makes a couple of textures that are close to this, like Armageddon Dust or Armageddon Dunes is one of them, and it works okay, but it always is like it wants to stick to the brush more than it wants to stick to the base, and it's like drier. Like this has got a little bit more paint in it, so you can easily kind of paint it around the base and make it go where you want to, whereas the Armageddon Dunes stuff that I've used in the past is always like a ball on the end of my brush, and I kind of always have to sort of like get it off my brush and then sort of wedge it around, and that stuff also costs way more than this. Like this is $13, but this tub of it is like, it's big. It's gonna take me a while to get through it. Whereas the GW stuff comes in their normal size, not the little pots, but the normal new bigger pots that they do, and that's still probably $8 or something like that. So yeah, you get a lot more of this. Now, like I said, I have not tried the coarse texture, but it's probably a lot more coarse. I mean, you know, by the name. That's what I like to use. Now that stuff is currently out of stock. Is the fine texture out of stock? Fine texture's in stock. The coarse texture is not in stock. Speaking of being in stock, Uncle Adam's favorite brushes are back in stock over at Monument Hobbies. They were out of stock for a while. They came out in like November, like a little after Black Friday, and then they were sold out by sometime in January. So yeah, the new set is, or they've got a new production run that came from Germany that they put back up on, I think, Friday or Thursday or something like that. They went live with it again, and then there's another production set that's coming after this with the idea that this one will probably sell out as well. So anyway, there's synthetic brushes. It's a 00, a 2, and a 4. And but they're custom like handles and all that kind of stuff, and they're fancy, and they help support the channel. So, you know, if you're interested, and you get 10% off your entire first order if you've never ordered anything from Monument Hobbies. You just use offer code Tabletop Minions, all one word, no space in between, just Tabletop Minions. Offer code Tabletop Minions at checkout, and then you are all set. So there we go, got that taken care of. Anyway, but basing, I've also, not only have I done that video about basing with baking soda, but Sam has done a basing video or two on my channel as well. So you might want to check that out if you're into that kind of thing. Let's see here. Your video about contrast over zenithal was a game changer for me, even with a final step of edge highlighting afterwards. The time saved versus traditional layering was huge with no discernible difference. I think that people who are very, very, very good at painting, far better than I am, there's definitely a discernible difference. But if you're trying to paint stuff to get on the tabletop to play with, I think that doing the zenithal and then covering it with transparent colors is the way to go. Whether it's contrast, whether it's speed paints from Army Painter, whether it's washes, shades, glazes, whatever. Yeah, it is definitely, like, I rarely ever paint any other way these days. Nearly everything that I do is always black and white zenithal and then some sort of transparent color over the top of it. Like swords and other metallic stuff, obviously those things are opaque paints because there's no such thing as metallic contrast that I know of. But, you know, and there's certain times when you're like, okay, well, I need to paint this like a completely different color or something like that. You know, sometimes skin tones I will do separately with opaques, but the rest of the body is all done with transparent paints. But yeah, that trick, it works great. I think it just really cranks stuff out fast. Speaking of Monument, any other exciting Monument collabs coming up that you can talk about? I I talked with Jason about trying to get some, because they have a manufacturer that does patches for them, and I'm thinking about doing some Tabletop Minions patches. So I want to, we'll probably maybe gang an order together with his patch manufacturer. So I actually need to reach out to him about that again. I talked to him a little bit about it at Adepticon. Just joined the stream. What did I miss? Did you manage to play Rivenstone at Adepticon? What did you think? I did not. I saw it from a distance at one point, but I did not get a chance to play it. I was watching a little bit of a stream. I know Will and I forget who Will was playing against, but they were streaming on the Rivenstone Minis, I think is what is the Twitch channel. So I watched a little bit of that, but I caught it like they had been playing for quite some time. So I kind of want to go back and maybe take a look at it at some point. I don't know. There's a little bit of like some of the sculpts I like from what I've looked at, because I went and looked at their website. Like the sculpts that I see for the like more like undead faction, I think are kind of interesting. Much of the sculpting is done in a very kind of World of Warcraft style, at least in my mind. I see the kind of bigger, chunkier, almost a little cartoonier looking models, and I'm like, that kind of reminds me of World of Warcraft a little bit. And I don't know that it's necessarily a fair assessment, but it's an assessment nonetheless. In my mind, that's where it goes. So yeah, I don't know. I should go back and, like I said, I kind of want to learn more about it, but I did not get a chance to do I did not get a chance to do a demo at Adepticon, no. Let's see here. Never had the fuzz show up once. What? Oh, talking about the police. I will use green stuff in some cases to build up and tuck bits of guitar string or wire chopped up bits of weapons and the equipment to make the ground work, all tied together with simple sand. Yeah, there's a lot of fun you can have with basing if you want to go down that road, for sure. I use Vallejo basing pastes, expensive but good stuff. I don't have any access to that stuff around here. I never use a brush for basing materials. I use a toothpick, wooden stir stick, or palette knife for applying such things. That's the thing. That's what I like about the monument stuff, is that it's basically gray paint with texture in it, and it's a little bit more edging into the paint realm than the texture realm. Like, there's obviously still texture there, but you can easily just move it around with a brush, which, like I said, the stuff from like GW, like the Armageddon Dunes or whatever, or Dust, I forget which, you couldn't, because it would just ball up on the end of the brush and it wouldn't want to come off for some reason. But this monument stuff I really like. Is it just me, or the release of the new Underworld set / expansion feel earlier than the previous ones? Have they accelerated the release schedule? I thought that was weird too, because I swear Harrow Deep just kind of, it feels like it just came out. Now I know that they announced it at Gen Con, which was in September of 2021. But it does seem like this nether maze, nether regions, nether world, whatever, like this new season, for lack of a better term, seems like it happened sooner than I would have expected. When they started talking about it, I was like, huh, I didn't think we were done with Harrow Deep yet. So I thought that was weird myself. What is your discount code for Monument? It's Tabletop Minions, all one word. Get yourself 10% off your entire first order at monumenthobbies.com. Let's see here. Just recently subbed to both Miniac and Ninjon after the Adepticon videos. Nice. Popping in, take a break from wrenching on the Jeep. While what bit of my sanity remains. Well, I hope that the Jeep gets better. Finally got my computer booted up. Nice. Tabletop Minions patches, but we need Nick t-shirt first, please. Well, we'll see what we can do. Progress on the monument washes. I know that they're they're not in production, but they are still working on them. He's been using them on and off on his Twitch channel. Slowfuse Jason's been using them over there, so he's the better person to ask anyway, obviously. But yeah, they are in progress. They're definitely still testing different setups and such. Is there an affiliate linked Monument Hobbies for you? Sorry if you said it, playing Bloodborne while listening to my only brain half heard. Yeah, again, it's Tabletop Minions, all one word, at checkout, and you get 10% off your first order. Entire first order, not just on the brushes, but any the paints and all the cool stuff. Just got an airbrush and starting to learn doing indoors priming now, which is a game changer. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Need to watch videos on techniques now. I remember contrast through airbrush is supposed to be different. Contrast through the airbrush is nice because it's just what's known as a filter. Like it doesn't go on like contrast. You know, when you paint on normal contrast, it soaks down into the deeper parts. It's supposed to pull away from the sharp parts. When you use contrast or speed paint, by the way, through your airbrush, it's just like a transparent kind of just color that goes over things. So it's not covering the paints underneath, but it is definitely coloring them. Not covering, but coloring. You see what I'm saying? Because it's transparent. So it's kind of like taking like a clear piece of like red plastic and then putting it over like a black and white photo, and then you get the, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I don't know if that's a great analogy or not. Underworlds are doing mid-season boxes now. In previous seasons, they were done as starters. They released a roadmap a while ago where they said they were only Harrow Deep. It moved. Sorry. They released a roadmap a while ago that said that they were only doing 2 individual warbands and then making another core set for Underworlds. It seems they're changing their business model a bit. It's weird. I wonder why they're doing that. Normally, Underworlds have 6 warbands boxes between box sets. Harrow Deep only had 1, the Ogre Pirate Crew. Really wonder what happened to the others. I mean, there's supposed to be one that they announced at Adepticon too, didn't they? The Exiled Dead? They're like a bunch of zombies, I think. I'm pretty sure that that's still Harrow Deep, but I don't remember for sure. Do you like the new squats, and what do you think of the Necromunda land train? Yeah, I like the new squats a lot. I'm looking forward to getting them and then not using them in Games Workshop games. And to be perfectly frank with you, like I want to use them in I want to get a box and like use them in Space Weirdos and Planet 28 and other cool stuff. And I like them because they don't look like they're not covered in skulls and other kinds of shenanigans. Like they look, I want to say normal. You know what I mean? Like they're just like shorter, squatter humans in wearing normal sci-fi stuff, and they still have that really nice quality that GW models have, but they're not covered in skulls and symbology and all this stuff. At least the one guy they've showed off. If I could get a couple of that guy, that's literally all I want. If they're going to be like, hey, we're making a whole new army and it's great, you'll be able to use it in 40k, I'm not going to use it in 40k, but I would definitely want to get some of those folks. The big old train thing for Necromunda, I think it's well done. I don't know how something that big works on a game that's only played like on a 3x3, so I would need to know more about that. So yeah. Have you checked out Conquest? If so, what are your thoughts? I don't like rank and flank games. It's just not my area of interest. They've also released a game called First Blood, which is a little bit more like Age of Sigmar in that you're not moving around rectangular trays, you're moving around groups and squads and stuff like that. I played it. I did a demo of it at Adepticon. I think it's well done, but it's still not what I'm looking for. I talked to them in Reno at the Gamma Trade Show, and evidently they are also working on a third game now, which is a little bit more like Warcry or Kill Team in that you're not moving around units of models. Each model is separate, and you're like running 5 to 10 models per side. Like that's what I want. That all being said, the new models that Parabellum has been making for Conquest are really, really starting to pick up their game. They're really nice. Like the earliest models that they put out were cool sculpts, but they had very, very, very soft detail. Like it's not that the plastic was soft. It was just that like nothing ever came to a sharp point. You know what I mean? Like everything, all the detail was just kind of rounded out. And that's just due to how much time you want to spend on making the mold. The more time you spend on making the mold with the finer little tools to get in there and make all the little tiny points and sharp things, when you cut corners kind of and you make a cheaper mold that way, it's not that the material's cheaper, it's like literally that you just don't spend as much time with the tiniest little kind of things getting in there and doing all the stuff, then you get models that have a bit more of a softer kind of look to them. But the newest stuff that they've been putting out over the last year has all been really super high grade, nice, super sharp details. I posted some stuff on, I think, Instagram or something like that of pictures of the models that I took at the Reno trade show, and they look great. So I'm really looking forward to this third game that they're going to be doing, I guess. And They've got these new kind of like undead Romans that I think look great. So yeah, there's a bunch of cool models coming out of them. I should answer the third question before the end of the show, shouldn't I? Oops. What was the third question? How do you want to expand your content in the future? For those of you who just joined, I'm answering the 3 questions that I asked the content creators on Friday's video, because people in the comments for that Friday video were like, well, why didn't you answer these questions, Uncle Adam? And so here I am. So I've already answered the other 2 previously, if you watch the video. This one, how do I want to expand content in the future? One of the things I want to do definitely is I've been talking about trying to do a little bit more in the way of battle reports. I think that it would be also, if I can get it to work properly and get people who are fun to hang with, like, Sam is definitely obviously fun to hang with, but I want to get some other folks that are maybe kind of local that would be also fun to hang with and play some games. I'd like to do some live streaming of some games as well down in the basement. I have the equipment, I have all the stuff I need. It's just cleaning the basement out and getting stuff organized and then getting things set up and going down that road. But I'd like to do some of that. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a huge hit, but I think it might still be enjoyable. Otherwise, I want to try to do some maybe more videos about like actual like Friday videos that are about painting, even though they also don't get great views. The only way to get great views, it seems these days, is to, I don't know, either try to start a conflict or bring up some sort of conflict or make some giant bold claim or something like that. And then people are like, well, I got to watch that video. And I don't know. It's not my thing, but I would like to, I've been really enjoying over the last almost 2 years streaming twice a week on Twitch, which if you don't follow me on Twitch, you totally should right here. Monday nights, 7 p.m. Central on Twitch. I go for about 3 hours, and also Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Central, also on Twitch. Again, about 3 hours, and I paint a lot of stuff, and I'm really enjoying it. So you should definitely go and follow over there if you're interested in that, watching me paint live, ask questions, this, that, the other thing. I do enjoy that. There's a part of me that would like to do it 3 days a week, but with having a day job and all that, it's kind of hard. But yeah, those are some of the things I'd maybe be interested in doing some expanding on, trying to move into, like I said, a little bit more in the way of videos that are maybe a bit more tutorial-ish, tutorialation. I'm not sure. I think I might be making some of those words up. But yeah. Let's see here. I'm in love with the weird Necromunda Tuscan Raiders that they've been showing off. I wish they were a full army. Well, I mean, they're not, like, that's not what they do in Necromunda. It's gangs. They don't usually do an army, but I'm sure they're making an entire gang, though, of those guys. Let's see here. I'm torn about getting into Necromunda or Warcry or Kill Team. What's your preference? Rules, models? I'm a big Warcry fan. That's the GW game that I'm playing these days, is Warcry. Rain and Hell demo game? Yeah, sure. Are you still quitting your studio? I mean, eventually, once I can, it's a time issue. Like next week, I'll be in Boston for PAX East from Thursday on. And so it's always just, it's having 3 jobs and trying to get all the things done at once. And I never have the time. So I'm still working on it, but yeah, definitely. The Twitch stream is always super chill and nice. Well, thank you. I appreciate that there, Blue9. Let's see here. I've been streaming Valheim too. Yeah, I did not do it last night, but I have been sometimes on Saturday nights making myself a cocktail and doing some Valheim streaming. It's fun. Would you ever consider doing/hosting a game jam type event where people just get together for a weekend and see what they can make? No. Well, probably not. Vince and I have talked about doing that, though. Maybe this upcoming fall/early winter. Like, our next game is going to come out this summer. And then we've talked about doing just like a weekend game jam where it's like just him and I. And we would stream it on Friday night, like coming up with concepts and stuff like that. We would stream again on Saturday at some point, where we would kind of like catch up and whatnot and all that kind of stuff, just so people could check it out and see what we're doing. And then we would stream again on Sunday, and then we would release the game on Monday. We're looking at like seriously, like kind of like this is even pretty thick in comparison. This is Brutal Quest by Mammoth Miniatures, which is, they also make Planet 28 and one of the games that I dig. But this book is still, well, it doesn't have any page numbers, but it's a decent number. There's probably at least 30 pages in here, something like that. Divide by 4, 28 pages, maybe 32 pages. So it would be something that would be even smaller than this, more like kind of like Space Weirdos, which is like 16 pages, including the cover and the back cover. That's more like what we would aim for, and we would do something like that. And we just think it'd be kind of a fun project, but working with other people to do it and stuff like that, that's probably more coordination that we currently have. So yeah. Let me see here. Personally, I've always enjoyed your tutorial type videos, so yay for that direction. Well, I appreciate that, Roan. Thank you very much. All right, well, folks, it's 11 a.m., so I'm going to wrap this up. I got to go we're going to go to the in-laws like we usually do for lunch, but it's Easter today, so unfortunately there won't be ham. I was kind of hoping for ham, but there's not going to be ham. But we'll still see some people beyond just the regular in-laws. There can be some other family folks there as well, so that'll be something nice. But yeah, I hope that you folks have a good fortnight until the next show. I will be, like I said, in Boston this upcoming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So every other Sunday show will be unaffected because it won't be one this Sunday. It'll be the next Sunday. But if you're if you're at PAX East in Boston, maybe you'll see me. I mean, we'll all be wearing masks from what I understand, so you'll only see about this much of me. But still, you might, maybe I'll wear a shirt with my picture on it or something like that. But yeah, so I'll let you folks know about my PAX. Here's my PAX badge, by the way. I got the 4-day badge. So yeah, I'll be there and hopefully get to hang out a little bit with Jerry from Penny Arcade and Kiko and EJB and a couple other folks. So that'll be fun to do as well. So we'll see you folks again in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you on Twitch if you want to check that out. And we'll see you on the YouTube this upcoming Friday. So I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out today, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks for watching.